So we're finally here. Took me long enough, but we're finally here. The last season that I can actually review because, well, Dino Charge is only like 10 episodes in, and there's really nothing to review right now. Well, I could do like episodic things, but nah, that'd be too much. That'd be too annoying. It would kind of take the fun out of doing a season review at the end of it, wouldn't it? But this is a big one. Not for the best of reasons, but it's a big one nonetheless. Everybody tried to be tried to be excited for this because I mean this is the 20th anniversary season. A lot of people love Gokaiger. I'm not sure why, but a lot of people like Gokaiger. So when we were about to get our Power Rangers adaptation of it for the 20th anniversary, a lot of people were excited. But with the blandness and averageness, those are words, of Megaforce, people were hesitant, and for good reason. But I felt that, you know, for the anniversary, they wanted Megaforce to capture the straightforward and silliness of Mighty Morphin, so that when Super Megaforce came around, they would kind of open the doors a little bit and try to be more flashy with everything. And I mean, yeah, it was pretty optimistic of me thinking that way, because what we got was not that. What we got was kind of more or less a continuation of what we had gotten beforehand, and it wasn't nearly as good as everybody had hoped for. Even the people that were really, really pessimistic and not looking forward to this were even disappointed, which is really saying something. So that brings us to Super Megaforce, the 20th anniversary season, which was actually the 21st season, if you include Samurai and Super Samurai as two separate seasons, which they're technically counted as two separate seasons, so yeah. The big premise behind this was the introduction of the Gokaiger footage, meaning Ranger keys, and the introduction of the legendary Ranger modes is what they're called. Seeing the old suits again in fights, which is the thing I was most excited about. And people just like Gokaiger, so that brought some excitement to this. But then we had the explanation of how would they ever explain the pirate stuff? Would they explain why Jake went from black to green? How would they introduce the extra Zords because they were team related? And then how would the war go? The legendary war. People had a lot of high expectations for that because people love the Sentai war. I kind of think it's half good, half bad, but I'll get to that when I start talking about our war. And I'm just going to get to the story because there's a lot of ranting that I need to do once I'm done with this. A ton of ranting. So, where would we leave off? Well, Robo Knight had fixed their Gosei morphers. They defeated the messenger. Vrack ran away like a pansy after Metal Alice got destroyed. Robo Knight disappeared. Gosei told him to morph really, really haphazardly. No, that's not the right word for that. They charged to see the Armada had finally come by and was attacking the city, and Troy dashed away from everybody for some reason with a big to be continued plastered across the screen. So that brings us to this. I'm assuming that this takes place right afterward. The Rangers are running around the city trying to save as many people as they can to fight off the new Goonies called X-Borgs. After they do so for a while, they head back to the command base. Everybody obviously shocked and in panic, and obviously very worried about what's going on. Gosei tells them that it's time to upgrade their powers, so he gives them these. These are the new legendary morphs. morphers. The first team ever to hold 2 morphers. You gotta say that because these don't go away. They have both. And makes sense of that. But he gives them the legendary morphers and their new ranger keys, telling them that these unlock the super mega modes, which allows them to activate the legendary ranger modes, which is the changing into past teams. The little figures lining the walls of the command center are ranger keys, and we kind of knew that anyway, but they state it here. Gosei tells him just go out and use them. Before Jake asks why his key was green when he was black, and he doesn't get a definitive answer, and we don't get a definitive. But they did joke around it a little bit, so I kind of enjoyed it nonetheless. But still, and I head out to ambush one of the generals of the Armada and activate them. Now, I want to talk about how the Gokaiger suits are used here, as they are more or less power-ups. Now, I think this is the first time that one team uses 2 different Sentai uniforms at one time. Now, I remember when this was announced that the Gokaiger suits were going to be more or less upgrades to the basic Megaforce suits, and a lot of people were upset about it. But a part of me actually kind of liked the idea, because, it was new. Nothing like that's ever been done before. I believe it should have been done back in MMPR Season 2, where they could have used the Die Ranger suits as, like, Thunder mode, because how they turned the Dinozords into the Thunderzords. They could have used the Die Ranger suits as, like, upgrades. That way they could have used the Die Ranger mech footage and used more Sentai footage that way. But they didn't, and it did add some difference in creativity. But it would have been cool to see the Mighty Morphin Rangers get, like, a upgrade thing and whatnot. But, that's just me kind of tossing around some ideas. But I feel like, even though I like the idea, I don't think it was the best way to execute this. I feel like when Robo Knight restored their Gosei morphers in the last episode, that it should have been like a temporary thing. When they used them to beat the messenger, then they should have crumbled again. This would have added more urgency. So they run back to Gosei asking him, what do we do now? Our morphers are destroyed. Robo Knight's gone. What do we do? And I was like, I was saving these in case of emergency. And then he gives them these in the Ranger keys, saying, I had these on standby just in case your powers were to fail or the powers of the Armada were too strong. And now you can use these to access the Ranger keys around you or something. That would have, I felt like, added a little bit more urgency to the situation. It would have explained the second morphers a little bit better. There is a behind-the-scenes reason why they kept these and the regular Megaforce suits, and we'll see why later. But they they power up. I'm not going to use the term morph because they're not morphing. They're basically going SWAT mode, Jungle Master, Super Samurai. That's basically what this is. And I am briefly reminded why the first fight scene in Gokaiger was pretty good. Very good. There was one thing Gokaiger did right was the fight scenes. And when they used the Sentai footage here in Super Megaforce, it shows. The fight scenes in Gokaiger are actually pretty good. So then we get to our first legendary change, is what I'm calling it. They never actually gave the changing it's a name. Like in Gokaiger, it's called Gokai Change. So instead of doing what the Sentai did and going with the first team, because they started off with Go Ranger, they went with Samurai. And how hard would it have been to film original footage briefly showing off the Mighty Morphin suits first? Oh well. But one of the things that was cool about this is that when they flipped the keys, they yelled Go Go Samurai. I was like, ooh, they actually used the morphing color. They're going to do this more often. So they fought with the Samurai suits for a little bit, pulled out the Mystic Force keys and yelled Magical Source Mystic Force, and I kind of squealed a little bit because I was wondering how they were going to do this. Was this thing going to yell Mystic Force like this thing does? Because this thing actually does yell the team name when you use the keys. I was wondering how they're going to do it. No, actually, this thing says silent. but they yell out the morphing calls themselves, which, to be honest, I think is a little bit cooler than, even though I love the Mobirat's voice. Who doesn't? Who doesn't love the Mobirat's voice? I think the idea of the team actually yelling that team's respective morphing call is actually a little bit cooler, because it's just, I love the little nods. Now, if the Gokaisers had yelled the Henshin calls and stuff, and then the Mobirates yelled out in that funny voice, then that would have been perfect. But so they go Mystic Force and mess up the X-Borgs, and then the General comes out of nowhere and kind of starts hammering them and everything. And then we get introduced to the legendary Megazord with one of the most terribly written and performed lines in the entire series. I'm never going to live this. I'm never going to let Andrew Gray forget this. It's when they're in the Skyship, which is the name for the Gokai Galleon. That's what they called it in Super Megaforce, Skyship. And they flew into space as they were getting ready to form the legendary Megazord for the first time. And he's like, I think I figured out how to form the Megazord. And I just started laughing. It was such a corny line. It was so poorly delivered. I couldn't help but laugh. I'm sorry. It was terrible. So they form the legendary Megazord and shows it off a little bit. And then there was like a second head. They kind of put the first two episodes of Gokaiger together and everything. And then they yell out their victory cry. That's a super mega win. Just please. Okay. Mega Rangers, that's a mega win. Okay, that's actually kind of, it's cheesy, but it works. It works. But then you replace the same thing but add super in front of mega, and you say that all the time, then it just gets, God, shut up, Troy. And he gets worse in this season. Skip a couple episodes because they're not important. We get to episode 4 here, Lions Alliance, which is loosely a Wild Force episode. Gosei tells him to go to Anamaria. You're an idiot. Just in case you didn't see, you are an idiot. The Animarium. Not hard, Gosei. To track down the Red Lion, aka Colzord from Wild Force. When they get there, they find him, and he attacks both the monster and the Rangers, knocking him off the island. They change into Wild Force. They yell their battle cry, which is Guardians of the Earth United Roar, and I was like, yay! And they use the Jungle Sword to mop up, the leftover goodies. And they fused with the Red Lion to become legendary Wild Force Megazord and put the guy down and get their first Zord that way. Problem number 1. Well, actually, the Mighty Morphin not being the first change was problem number 1. Problem number 2. Where the heck's Cole? Okay. They've been in contact with his actor because he played Decker in Samurai. So it was pretty obvious that Saban had kept in contact with him. Bring him over for 1 episode and then film the war stuff with him in it. That way we can have a true... If Cole had shown up in this episode, then this episode would have been fine. But he's not here. And it bugs the crap out of me. Because they had... The Wild Force suits took prominent role in the key fight. Ah, god dang. I'm trying to not to hiccup here. The Red Lion was here. They went to Anamari. And god dang it, go see you dick. His stupid is spreading. They went to the Animarium. They found Red Lion. Wild Force was the prominent suits used in the fight scene. Where was the Ranger? Nowhere to be found. This happened again in the next... Well, not quite in the next episode. There was another episode like this later. But, they have trouble fighting off this monster, and they go to their little Froyo shop or whatever. Troy, Noah, and Jake are talking about how to defeat this thing, and all of a sudden Jaden, his big nose, shows up. And man, they did a terrible job of doing this. Jaden was kind of tall, and they turn around and they see Jaden. Is like, wait a minute, you're the Red Samurai Ranger. Yep. It was horrible. They did like this really quick zoom in on his face, and he had this Like, he was like, you about to get my spin sword. And I was like, yeah, I kind of jumped when I was watching the episode. I was like, ah, no, Jake, no way. It was horrible. But he gives Troy the double disc that he used at the end of Samurai and kind of walks off. They find the monster, they go Samurai, they beat the crap out of the monster, then they use the red lion to turn into the legendary Samurai Megazord. Jaden and Mentor G are like, Earth's in good hands, and then drives away on motorcycles. Rangers on motorcycles! Yep. Because that's how this works. But we finally get a relatively decent episode here, where Jungle Fury gets its time in the spotlight. The Rangers go to a zoo and they see a guy scooping up tiger poo in the tiger pen. And this episode, even though I consider it to be the second best episode in the, well, I'll say second best loosely, second best episode in the season because it's how I think the season should have been handled all the way through, but it also has one of the dumbest lines in the entire franchise. They're fighting this monster. He uses like magnets or something to pull the weapons out of their hands. They go Wild Force and fight this guy, and then they head off. Noah and Jake are trying to figure out why they couldn't beat him, and Troy's like, simple. Don't drop your weapons. Don't let go of your weapons. Go! Seriously, Troy? That's your brilliant leadership advice? Don't drop your weapon. Don't let go of your weapon. Okay. You know, that's the advantage of having the Ranger keys. You can go to a team who specializes in hand-to-hand combat, like you did with Wild Force, who doesn't necessarily need weapons. There's nothing saying that you have to use your Super Mega Sword, Super Mega Blade, Super Mega Blaster. Terrible weapon names, but still, my point stands. That's the advantage. Just switch to a team with more weapons. Switch to a team that doesn't need weapons. That's what the keys are for. You're an idiot. So Emma and Jake walk around the forest and they run into Casey. I just got done talking about him a few videos ago. He's still Master, Paishwa Master, and he ends up teaching Jake and Emma some Shinqua. I just had it and I forgot the name of it. And then he tells them that their animal spirits are the respective Megaforce helmet of Snake and Phoenix, which I thought was a pretty cool little touch. Their morphers go off, and Casey tells them, "You're gonna answer those." They're like, "How do you know it's a morpher?" It's like, "I'm the Red Jungle Fury Ranger." Everything. So they go team up with the other Rangers, and they go Jungle Fury and beat them up. And they use the Jungle Fury keys to let out the animal spirits from the Megazord and everything. This is how every episode should have been handled. Because we had the returning Ranger actually making an impact on the Rangers to overcome a dilemma, to overcome a situation. He teaches them, they learn, they use that team's respective power to beat the monster. That's how the episodes in Gokaiger worked. And while I don't particularly care for Gokaiger, when it comes to characters, villains, plot, the anniversary tribute parts were done perfectly. How the episodes usually worked. They got faced with a monster, something among the team or whatever happened that they couldn't overcome. They run into a past ranger. They kind of aid them a little bit, and then when the ranger or team finally gets it, that past ranger honors the Gokaizers with their power, and then they honor that ranger by using that Sentai team's power to fight the monster. That's how it worked in Gokaiger. That's why the tribute stuff on Gokaiger worked so well. This is the only episode that really gets the idea behind the Gokaiger tribute episode. Maybe it's because Casey's actor wrote this episode himself, and he himself is a Sentai fan. He's admitted to it. He likes Sentai. I think he might like Kamen Rider also. So he actually gets it. That, and because he was a writer, he was there already, so it was easy to get him to come in. But still, come on. Then we get introduced to our Silver Ranger, Orion, who, to put it short and simple, he's from a planet called Andrasia, who was attacked by the Armada and had the entirety of his planet killed off, except for him, when he found the Silver Morpher and the Silver Ranger key in a block of ice. Gosei, after they had brought him back to the command center, was like, I threw those into space. I didn't think anyone would find them. Why'd you throw them into space? The freak's wrong with you? I mean, first of all, why did you make 6 morphers and 6 keys for a team of 5? And then why'd you throw the 6th one into space? That wasn't going to do you any good. I mean, granted, you got lucky and actually managed to do you some good, but still, why? This is going to be like my Mystic Force review over again. What's wrong with you? I'm yelling at him the same way I yelled at Nick in my Mystic Force video. And then he somehow gets the Q-Rex. Yes, Quantum Ranger's Q-Rex. With no explanation behind it. Yeah, he used the Quantum Ranger key to summon the dang thing, but how the heck did he... Did Gosei just hack into the Time Force's crap in the future and they just hijacked the Q-Rex? Where was Eric? They could have had him in this... It doesn't even need to be a Time Force tribute episode. Just have him show up, kind of, you know, give him a little bit of advice, and then have Eric be like, here, Trip talked to me that they had built up or modified the Q-Rex to fit your Ranger keys. Just use my key to summon it. Boom! Problem solved. It's all of a sudden okay. I mean, granted, there could be more to it, but, you know, come on. Jeez. He gets the gold mode, well, it's called Super Mega Gold, but still, they get that. It's kind of handled the same way as it was in Gokaiger. Kind of. I guess, maybe. He gets the idea of fusing all the 6 Ranger keys together after he fused the Boom Twin keys together. So yeah, that was a thing. Nothing happens, nothing happens. RPM episode handled just like the Wild Force episode. We're getting a distress signal from Corinth. So they rip a hole in the dimension and Professor Cog, the guy from the Clash of the Red Rangers crossover, is back somehow. They go to Corinth. It looks nothing like Corinth. There's no Scott. There's no Dr. K. And that doesn't even look like Corinth. I said that already, but I'm going to say it again because it doesn't look like Corinth. Why is the Zord running free through the streets of Corinth? They could have had Scott come by and said, Cog messed with this thing and now it's running rampant. Can you stop it? They stop it. Scott's like, take it. Use it to stop Professor Cog and to save your planet from the invasion. Boom. Episode's all of a sudden just fine. But they managed to tame the Zord with Troy yelling like a cowboy. And they bring the thing back and they use the RPM powers to kill Cog. Oh boy. Okay, then we actually start to get someplace, kind of. Vakar, who is Vrak's brother, the Prince of the Armada, is Divatox in a male body. I've been saying the same thing about Wars Gills, who's his Gokaiger counterpart for a long time. They really didn't do anything to change his personality at all. But he's still a big whiny crybaby. And he's been throwing a temper tantrum, and he's all complaining, like, Daddy, I need to beat the Power Rangers so Daddy will love me, or some crap. So he makes his own Megazord. And goes after the Rangers, and they beat the tar out of the Q-Rex and everything. So then they're like, what do we do? And Gosei's like, you confuse everything together. Oh boy, how did we earn that power? You just got it. Because I've been spoon-feeding everything to you all season. How did we get the Mystic Dragon? Just got bored. How did we get the Ninja Zord? Because shut up. They don't earn anything. They're just fighting alongside something. Ghostface's like, here, take this. You can use it. Oh, okay. Thanks. Then they form the ultimate legendary Megazord. And I was gonna say something, but that would have been terrible. But it's actually kind of no, they didn't use that. They no, I don't want to say that either. I'm trying to say something without it sounding. I was about to say they drilled Vicar. I'm like, no, that's not right. They used the fisting. They fisted Vicar. No, that doesn't sound right either. They blew him up. I'm trying not to make this sound terrible, but I kind of want to. So they blew up his Megazord. And we got a scene that I didn't think they'd show in Super Megaforce, but once he got killed in Gokaiger, they showed I think his name was Demiris or something, pick up his body and it was like scorched and he was like dead and burned and everything. And they actually showed that here. I was like a little bit surprised because that's a pretty gruesome scene. They showed the body just scorched and everything. I was like, God dang. Way to not give a crap. Well, they haven't been giving a crap, but they really didn't give a crap here. So what happened to Vicar's good old brother, Vrak? Well, we find out here. Vrak is walking through the rubble of his destroyed Megazord, and he's like, okay, time for my payback. So he has a giant drill go into the ground, and it basically turns all of their Ranger keys into stone. Somehow. Basically what happens is that Vicar kidnapped Orion, used his alien power, aka he's not from Earth, so we can make up bullcrap powers about him for energy and stuff and things, to fuel turning Robo Knight evil. That's basically what happens. So they go and fight him, and they can't turn Super Mega because he's cut off their connections to keys somehow. But he wasn't able to completely turn off the morphing grid for some reason. That seemed like it would have been a bit of a smarter move, wouldn't it? But somehow Thrax is smarter than Vrak. That was very uncomfortable to say. Anyway, so they're stuck with their basic Megaforce powers, which is why they kept this. It was for these 2 episodes, because they needed more Ghost Savior footage to use. Because this is basically nothing but Ghost Savior footage for this 2-parter. So they end up finding that's where Robo Knight went, is that Vrak kidnapped him and turned him into Dark Robo Knight. So they're trying to fight him, trying to convince him to come back, but nothing's working. Vrak sends out these monsters, kind of just like guardian monsters or something. They destroy one, it turns into a drill. Once he gets one in the ocean, in the sky, and in the land, then he's able to rip the earth into pieces. You know what, Vrak? For being such a loser in Megaforce, and with how god-awful the villains in this season have been, this is actually pretty interesting. You know, he actually turned up the bad A meter a little bit here. Granted, he's still not an amazing villain, but these 2 episodes, you know, I guess they did him enough justice. I feel like they did anyway. I thought Vrak was, because his voice and his action, that he actually came off sinister. I actually kind of liked Vrak in this. It's a shame he wasn't like this throughout Megaforce and didn't have a bigger impact in Super Megaforce, but whatever. So it's a fight between Troy and Robo Knight ensues, and Troy goes Super Saiyan. That's basically how everybody's describing it. Punches him in the chest, and Robo Knight's like, oh, thank you, and just kind of hobbles away. And they're like, Robo Knight, where are you going? So he goes back to Vrak's base and rescues Orion before his base blows up and all the drills disintegrate. And then the Megaforce Rangers finally kill off Vrak. Okay. And that's just the abridged version of it. Sorry, I'm looking at my phone for stuff. I keep getting updates on things and stuff. So, Emperor Marvro comes in, who's basically Vakar and Vrak's dad. He's mad that he killed off that the Rangers killed off both of his sons, and he's mad at the gold guy. I forgot his name. Demiris, or was that the robot with the sword that Noah keeps fighting? I don't know. I don't care about any of these villains. He kind of tells him that you're the one that let my son get killed. If you don't do something, I'm killing you. So he kidnaps Troy and brings him up to Marvro's ship, where Troy kind of pledges that he'd be back for him after a while, and he somehow gets away. I don't even remember what happened in that episode. But yeah, Butterball gets killed. So now Levira, I think that's her name, kind of betrays Marvro a little bit. So she goes down and tries to take out the Rangers herself. I'll get to this in a little bit. The legendary change, and they manage to kill her in her own Megazord. And then the Emperor's ship comes into the Earth's atmosphere, and they try to fight it off with all of their Zords and the Q-Rex and everything. Okay, so the problem with the Q-Rex being here is that for some goddamn reason, Orion thought it was a good idea to leave because he thought that the Rangers could handle this. Wasn't his whole reason for chasing the Armada to Earth was to defeat the Armada to get revenge and payback for his entire species being killed? So why is he leaving? They're not done. Earth isn't safe yet. What the freak is wrong with you? Do I have something for Orion? Yeah, I got a figure of him back there. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with everybody in the stupid season? So they have the Q-Rex somehow, controlling it remotely somehow. This isn't Billy with a remote control thing for the Falcon Zord. This is just the Q-Rex randomly showing up and no one being like, good thing we still have the Q-Rex Zord. What is going on? So after a pretty long fight against the Armada, Marvro destroys the legendary Megazord, presumably, and the Rangers fall out of it into the rubble, defeated. He gives the Earth 24 hours to prepare for their demise. Oh boy. So now the whole city's in shambles. Old men are hurt. Suddenly, Lightspeed rescue. Oh my god, a good season is here to help save everything. Carter and Dana come running in to help this old man. Leo, Galaxy Red, comes in to help a man's dog. My voice broke up there. TJ and Cassie, Space Blue and Space Pink, help people out of an elevator. And then we see Damon, Wes, and Corone. There's Galaxy Green, Time Force Red, and Galaxy Pink, helping people out. And then Tommy helps someone out of a car that's on the verge of falling over. I'm lightly running over this, but I was squealing when I was seeing these guys again. But we go back to the Rangers, who are regrouping, and they're trying to figure out what to do because they're lost. Their Megazords are destroyed, and the Armada's basically got everything covered. What do? Well, they see a ship land. They head over to an Orion. Came back because he heard a radio signal, I guess, of Marvro pulling out a full-on attack on Earth. So he headed back to fight. They decide to just go on the full-out offensive. Orion and Troy the next day get on the ship that Orion had hijacked and flies up to the Emperor's ship, where they fight off Marvro and take him down. They use the Space Red and Space Silver powers, and it was cool seeing these suits together one last time, to escape the falling debris, and they meet up with the others, assuming that it's all over. But Marvro comes out of the rubble, angry, and they do kind of an unhelmeted morphing sequence, which was kind of cool. And then they use the final fight scene from Gokaiger here, where they change into as many Rangers as possible, but they edit around it pretty well, and they finally kill Marvel that way. As he's dying, he yells out that my X-Borg army is still here to fight for me. They're like, what army? They turn around and see that there are thousands of the X-Borg's drones. That's it. That's all there's left of the army. But after the fight that they just had, they're beat, and they know it. But they know that this is also the final fight. So as Troy and the Rangers stand their ground, Noah points up to the cliff above, and the Mighty Morphin and Overdrive Rangers walk up to him. This is what we've been waiting for. The Mighty Morphin and Overdrive Rangers stand above over the cliff, and the other Rangers start pointing out more teams. Turbo, Mystic Force, Zeo, Lost Galaxy, Lightspeed, Samurai, Wild Force, Jungle Fury, Ninja Storm. They're all up there. My Megaforce Rangers are looking up just in awe that every team from Mighty Morphin to Samurai is there to come help them. As the X-Borgs charge, the other teams come down off the cliff and approach them slowly. Tommy, TJ, Cassie, Carter, Wes, Dana, Leo, Damon, Carone, Mike, and Emily. Yeah, Samurai Green and Yellow were there too, but they never say anything. All take off their helmets and approach the Rangers with this good guitar riff that's like very dramatic, you know, and it worked so well. At this point, I'm squealing like a little girl because this is what I've been waiting for. This moment right here. They approach the Megaforce Rangers, and Tommy tells them that they're here to fight with them. Weston says that they've been watching them and that they're proud of what they were doing. Now, people got onto West for saying this because it's like, these Rangers aren't good. There's nothing of them upholding your legacy anywhere. I'm like, they upheld the legacy pretty dang well. Because they had their morphers destroyed at the end of Megaforce. They were willing to charge the messenger unmorphed, knowing dang well they would get killed. And then after the Armada came, they got their Super Megaforce powers. They went out there, they fought. Their Megazords destroyed by the Armada. Oh well, we'll just hijack a ship and fly up there and take out their Emperor themselves. They risked themselves to fight. If this was the Overdrive Rangers, they would have quit after the Megazord was destroyed. The Overdrive Rangers are the only team that never lived up to the legacy. The Megaforce Rangers did. Granted, they're poorly written characters, but they lived up to it. Cassie tells them to take their lead. They morph. All the other Rangers put their helmets back on, and then we get to Carone. She looks at her helmet, and she's like, I love being a Power Ranger. We get flashes of Astronomer real quick, bringing her character full circle after all these years, and that was a great touch. Troy and the other Rangers stand together as the X-Borgs charge. He yells, let's make a new legend, which I actually kind of like that line, and they charge the X-Borgs. Then it all goes downhill from there. From the moment when the Megaforce and Overdrive Rangers have popped up from above the edge of the cliff to this moment, perfection. The way that they introduced each team, the way that the Rangers approached the Megaforce Rangers, how they talked a little bit, they acknowledged each other, had the cool standing together thing and everything, it was perfect. Better than the Sentai one where it's just, I'm Maka Ranger, I'm Big One, let's go, backflips, everybody's here. I'm like, well, okay, that wasn't dramatic in any way whatsoever. But with how the Sentai War started off kind of and then skyrocketed, the Super Megaforce one started off high and then dropped at this exact. There's like this intersection here. Here's the center point. This is the power. This is Super Megaforce. This is Gokaiger. Okay, they're both doing. And they get to the center point where the war starts right here, and then they just spike in different directions. They charge them. They charge the X-Borgs and start to fight. The fight is, what, barely 2 minutes long, and it focuses on mostly the Megaforce Rangers, with them yelling stupid things. Nice, Wild Force! God dang, Troy, shut your stupid face. Sheesh. And it focuses so much on them. We get glimpses of the Samurai Rangers. We get one glimpse of Jungle Fury and Mighty Morphin. We get the aliens and Ninja Storm chopping people up, but it's mostly the Megaforce Rangers and them blabbering their stupid faces. And they finish off the X-Borgs, and then the war ends off of that. Why did the Sentai War work there after the introduction? Because it skipped the Go Sagers and showed off every single Sentai team in about a 4-minute brawl that ended with the Go Rangers showing up and beating the tar out of things. That's what this moment was about. It was about the legacy of the show, not the current guys. We saw everybody. We saw the Jetman fly in. We saw the Mega Rangers. We saw the Gingamen, the Go-Go 5. That doesn't sound right when you say it like that. You saw every team. And then the Go Rangers, the first team, got a little bit of limelight. Why couldn't we have gotten the Mighty Morphin Rangers some spotlight in this? Surprisingly, the Mighty Morphin Rangers barely got any spotlight time in this whole season, outside of Tommy walking up. What the freak? Bandai loves giving us stuff with Mighty Morphin. But then Saban comes right around and they give Samurai more. Shoot, I think SPD got more screen time than Mighty Morphin did. I mean, granted, I like SPD more than Mighty Morphin, but still, the original season should get some kind of special treatment in a season like this. I feel like. Because Aka Ranger was the last person we saw in the credits of the final episode. He turned into his Aka Ranger suit and then walked away as the Go Kaisers headed back into space. The Go Rangers got so much of a special treatment in Super Megaforce and Go Kaiser, but in Super Megaforce, the Mighty Morphin Rangers got jack squat. They say goodbye to the past Rangers and they turn into energy and fly into space. Because reasons. They celebrate and everything, and Troy jams one of his sabers into the ground, which I actually kind of thought was a cool thing because it's like one of those monument things. This area is where all the Rangers teamed up to save the planet. That's how I look at it, like a monument thing. You know, like how you'll see something happen here and they have like a statue there. It's like, this is where whatever took place. And I kind of like how he did that. I don't know if that's what he did that for, but that's how I interpret it. And then it just ends. Oh boy. So I did a lot of ranting during that. I talked about the war, what I felt was wrong with the war. I talked about Gosei just giving everything away free card. I talked about how awful the villains were. I didn't say anything, but none of the villains were worth even talking about. I'm just going to leave it there. None of the villains were worth talking about, except for maybe Vrak, and I already said my things on him. I talked about how I thought the Go Kaiser suits were handled. No, I've already gone on my rant about the tribute episodes and how that bombed. There's something else I was going to talk about before I get to one of my bigger points. Screw it, I'll just get to that. No, let me get to the characters first. Nothing changes. I kind of skipped over the Robonaut thing where he went to save Orion and he got killed during the explosion. I don't know how I skipped this because I loved Robonaut. But it just showed how Robonaut went from I don't care about you humans to risking his life to save a living creature and everything. And then he briefly came back for one picture in the war. And I write that off because that's bullcrap. He was never seen after the... God dang, why does this always happen to me when I'm on camera? He never showed up after the war anyway. He's just gone for some reason. He died in the car's laboratory. That's the end of that. He doesn't show back up in the war, not to me. Whatever. Ugh. God, this season. But I think people wanted me to get to the biggest part of this, which is... I'm just going to go into the whole rant of respect for the show. Remember me going back to when I was talking about how the tribute episodes were handled in Gokaiger, how they were executed. Most tribute episodes went like this: they ran into a problem. Okay, an ex-ranger showed up to help them, taught them some things, lesson and all that stuff. The past ranger gives them their blessing. They turn into that team using, if they had one, a recreation of that team's henshin sequence with the team season playing, with a few exceptions, but I don't think Jetman's theme would have been very appropriate in that situation. The Jetman episode was way too dark for that peppy theme, but it used the team's theme instrumental in the background while they fought. They used cool little moments, like the Jetman one. They turned into that flaming phoenix thing that they used at the end of in the last episode of Jetman, and all that kind of stuff. And if there's a Zord add-on like Hurricaneger and Shinkenger and Gaoranger, then they use it. And then the Ranger kind of like says his farewells. You can tell that there was respect for the past seasons and the series put into these episodes. Super Megaforce's writers and people in charge have no respect for the legacy of Power Rangers. First of all, they hardly get anybody back. Jaden, Casey, the only two that come back for tribute episodes. All the other people that come back are for anniversary season or for the war, for the war. And the two episodes that they do have that in, well, they get the fight scene with the suits and everything, but they don't use the song. They don't use their theme song. But the biggest problem here, and this is a big rant that a lot of people have, are the Sentai suits. You knew I was going to get to this. The Sentai suits. What the crap are these doing here? Now, the Dire Rangers, I can kind of let that one go a little bit, because they're in that weird gray area between the Mighty Morphin and the Alien Rangers. I mean, we didn't use those suits, but we used aspects from them, like Kiba Ranger was White Ranger. The Thunder Zords were the Daiken Beasts, and I think that's what they were called in Dire Ranger. But we never used the Core 5 Dire Ranger suits. But so I could kind of understand that they could have wrote them off as like an older team, because Zordon did say he had like a previous team or something, or this could be like an alien team that kind of lost, and Zordon used their combined power to make the White Ranger suits, and that's why the White Ranger is teamed up with them in Super Megaforce. I think that would have been enough explanation for me. But no, they just show up. Changeman shows up. Flashman shows up. What? Well, I don't remember what other Sentai teams show up, but they're brought in, given some forced cheap name, and have no explanation as to. Now, if they said that these were, they could have said this, and I would have been okay with it. These are alien teams from other parts of the world, like the Triforians, the Equitians, the people from KO-35, Andros and Zane, Maya, the Galaxy Yellow, because of her planet. And it's like, there could be a bunch of Ranger teams scattered throughout the galaxy. And these are just different teams from different parts of the galaxy that have never interacted with the Rangers of Earth before. And they could have said that. That would have been better than what we got. Because we can assume that there are more alien teams around the galaxy. But they never say that. They just like, oh, these are new powers never before seen on Earth. Okay, so where are they from? Why are they here? There were some instances where they did edit around them. There was, I think it was one of the earlier episodes where they turned into Mighty Morphin for the first time. Then they turned into Lost Galaxy. In Gokaiger, they went from Zoodanger to Dynaman to Gingaman. They skipped the Dynaman, went from Mighty Morphin to the Galaxy. And then we have scenes like the one where they're fighting Levere at the end, where Troy turns into Red Ranger. In Gokaiger, he was supposed to turn into Vol Eagle, so they changed him to Red Ranger. But the other four turned into Sentai suits. We had original Power Ranger Super Megaforce footage with 4 Sentai suits. This means that there's no respect for the franchise when they do something like this, because these suits were never used in the show, in any season beforehand. Why are they here? Why are they freaking here? They shouldn't be here. And then they just shoehorn them in with no explanation. Why? Why? There's no respect for the 21 year history of the show. And it shows. There's no, outside of like accurate terminology like Mystic Sealing Bell, or whatever the heck the Titan Megazord's finale was called, the finisher was called. They used that with the Mystic Dragon. They used some correct attack terminology. They even used the correct attack name for Flashman when Jake turned into Green Flash. I think that's what he's called. A Prism Punch or something? I heard that was a correctly used term from Flashman. So that begs the question, did they do this on purpose to appease to the people that watch Sentai? If that's the case, alright, but no. They don't belong here. They have no reason for being here. Why are they in this show? Just no. 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 And I think that's where everybody's problems with this season come from. I think I can sum it up just like that. The writers, the producers, everybody in charge of this show had no respect for the legacy of Power Rangers, and they didn't bother putting in any heart into this. Even though I feel like Gokaiser's characters, plot, and villains are droll and make the season really boring at times, they did have respect for the 35-year history of Super Sentai at the point, and paid homage to pretty much as many seasons as they possibly could in very, very, very well done styles. That didn't happen here, and it bombed. Even though I don't necessarily agree that this and Megaforce combined or separate are the worst seasons in this history of the show, I still believe Overdrive is, and my reasons for why I hate Overdrive still stand very highly. This season and Megaforce combined, separate, however you want to categorize them, are failures. Because we had expectations for the super half of the season, and we got nothing but more of Megaforce. But with the images of what we could have had, with the realization of what we actually got. And there was just so much nope in this that I think the biggest thing I put this is how not to do an anniversary season 101. That's just the perfect way. Freaking the 5-minute long reunion of the leaders in Digimon Cross Wars Hunters was better, had more respect for the 15-year anniversary, a legacy of Digimon, than in 5 minutes than this had for the entire 20 episodes. I don't know. I had my expectations. I was hoping that this was going to be something to be remembered. And outside of like the 2.5, 3 minutes of the past Rangers showing themselves to the Megaforce Rangers, walking up to them, talking to them, and then standing with them before they charge the war, aside from that, it's a letdown. Though that introduction of the past Rangers thing was, I still believe, perfect. It's exactly how I dreamed it would be. It's exactly how I wanted it to be. But everything else, no. No. And I think that's a pretty simple way of summing the season up? No. No. uh, that is not a super mega win. Uh, so, for my next review, I will see you sometime in November or December of 2016, because that's when Dino Charge will finish up. I don't care if Dino Supercharge is considered a separate season. Samurai and Super Samurai are one season to me. So I am done with my Power Ranger reviews for now. Thank goodness. Took me long enough to do all of this, huh? So what's next for the Power Rangers thing? Well, I'm a guy that likes doing lists. So to wrap up my reviews here, I am going to do worst to first. The seasons, in my personal opinion, from worst to first. And then I'll do like top reds, top blue, green, black, all that stuff. All that jazz. I'll be doing lists, and I might do like some weird Sentai versus Power Ranger. I talk about counterparts and how everything, whatnot. But for the most part, I'm done with the reviewing of the Power Ranger seasons until Dino Charge finishes up. I might look at the MMPR movie if I'm really bored and I want to be sadistical with myself. But, nah, I probably won't for a while. But, what am I going to actually review next? Well, I'm going to be jumping back into Super Sentai. The first season I plan on watching is Mega Ranger, which is in Space's Sentai counterpart. So, and then I'm going to try to go in order from there of seasons that have been done, which I think is pretty much everything but Go-Go 5, which is Lightspeed's counterpart. So, yeah, I'll be doing a bunch of lists and all that jazz while I'm watching my Sentais, and I'll review those as I get done with them. So, thanks for watching my Power Rangers reviews. I know this has been a long time, me being lazy, me not wanting to do this, all that super happy fun time stuff, but it's finally over. So, let's just sit back and enjoy the rest of Dino Charge. It's been great through 10 episodes. Judlin, you're a miracle worker. Let's hope it holds up. And I will review that when I review that. So, I'll see you next time, guys.